Becoming a nurse entrepreneur requires a blend of clinical expertise, business acumen, and a passion for innovation. It involves identifying gaps in healthcare and creating solutions, whether through private practice, consulting, or product development. Tina Marie Baxter has been a registered nurse for over 20 years and a nurse practitioner for 17 years. And she founded the Nurse Shark Academy to help nurses launch and scale their businesses. And nurse entrepreneurs must possess strong leadership and communication skills, along with the ability to navigate the challenges of running a business, especially in the healthcare landscape. So stay tuned for this fascinating conversation in an area that's not only needed, but growing.
This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media with resources and ideas for you at mid-career or halftime of life. Check out our online courses where we want you to not only start, but finish. Books available in all versions, and songs available for immediate download with sheet music and instrumental accompaniment tracks. Our musicals are family-friendly with great music that's memorable and inspiring. Sign up at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter for weekly updates. Now to our episode.
I'm so happy to have Tina Marie Baxter with us today. And Tina, you have quite the background in nursing. And I think it's a very, very important field right now, medical field. And I just felt like what you are doing with your Shark Academy, you've got a Nurse Shark Academy. I love that name, by the way. But I like to give my guests the opportunity to introduce how they got to that field to begin with. How did you even become interested in being a nurse? And what led you to this place? Because you've had a lot of experience now as a nurse practitioner. So anyway, why don't you kind of fill us in?
Okay. Well, growing up, I was always interested in science and medicine. And, I was the kid who studied rocks and leaves and kept things in my pockets that would drive my mom crazy. I had worms in my pocket. I was that kid. Okay. And so I knew I wanted to do something in science. And I was in high school and I thought at one time I was going to go to space. I wanted to be an astronaut and I wanted to be an astrophysicist and I wanted, that type of thing. Whoa. And then I got into physics class and then I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. So my interest went to biology because I got interested in how the body works and how disease happens. Mm-hmm. And so I originally thought I was going to go to medical school. So I got a degree in biology. I was pre-med, planning that, and realized that is not what I wanted to do. I spent some time with my cousin, who's a very successful OBGYN, and watched some of the doctors in my family. And what I discovered is, they had all the money, they had all the toys, but they never got to play with them. Ooh. And I thought, I don't want that life. Oh, wow. And this is from someone who took the MCAT twice. So when I say I was headed to medical school, I meant that I just could not force myself to apply. I actually had nightmares about it. So that's when I realized that's not what I want to do. Mm. So being a fifth-year senior, my parents, I told them, I said, well, I'm not ready to go for medical school. I think I'll just get a job for a minute and figure out what I want to do, even though you just paid for 5 years at this very expensive private Christian university. Oh, so I found a job working as a CNA in a nursing home because they paid you while you learn. And I thought, perfect. Yeah. I was a broke college student who was living on her own for the first time and had to figure this out really quickly. And I got started working in the nursing home and I watched what the nurses did. And I thought, I think I can do that. I think I can do that. So I decided to apply for nursing school, and it was about 2 weeks before the new semester started. And I just called them up and said, let me in your school. I want to transfer. And they said, well, you have to, because my lease was up. I had to move. It was a whole thing. And my fiance at the time said, why don't you move here and go to school here? So that's what I did. So I called them up. I said, let me in. They go, well, you have to be admitted to the university. So I submitted my transcripts from the other university and told them I'm almost done. All I had to do was 2 classes and I was done with that degree. And I had 2 minors as well. So I said, I'm almost done with that degree. And so I got admitted to the school, said, now you have to apply to the School of Nursing. Well, they got excited because they've never had someone that, already had a biology degree and all this stuff. And so they let me come in 2 weeks before the semester started as a sophomore because I had to do nursing classes. So I got right into nursing classes. And my very first class was taught by the dean of the School of Nursing. And she was talking about the profession, what nurses do and the science behind nursing. Mm. And I sat there and I said, I found my tribe. This is where I was meant to be all along.
Wow.
And I never looked back. And I say that to say nursing has been very good to me. I started out as a staff nurse, quickly became charge nurse. That was a whole story. I moved on to be supervisor, was in management in the hospital, got my master's in education, was a nurse educator, got my postmaster's as a nurse practitioner, started working as an NP and really love what I do. And so I had to figure out a way of putting all that together, all the pieces. I've had a lot of jobs since high school and on. I've worked for a country club serving drinks before I really was legally should have been able to do that. To a bunch of people, to working on a golf course, to working in a lab during the summers, and to the point that they just gave me my own section because I'd been there so long. They're like, okay, we're short staffed. You handle the poop. It was that type of thing. You're a rotavirus girl. Because they needed the help in the lab. So I had all those experiences and did a variety of different things. And as I was going through nursing school, so in nursing school, I started out teaching CPR because I, again, broke college student. And I needed a way to make extra cash. So I got trained to teach CPR and I worked for an educator at one of the hospitals. And she would allow me to borrow the equipment. I could borrow the equipment and teach classes outside. So I would do corporate classes and anybody coming from a doctor's office can train our staff. I'd go do it. I never thought of that as a business. I was strictly in side hustle mode. I've got to have some extra cash. I'm a broke college student. And I was working at the hospital as a nurse tech and working night shift and doing all that stuff. So I've been teaching CPR for, 30 years now.
Wow.
Because I never stopped. But fast forward on, I got an opportunity. I was in between jobs as a nurse practitioner. I had worked for a company. There were some things that happened at the company that's just ethically, I just could not sit well with me. And so I had severance from that company. And I was like, that's mutually great because they actually paid me. So I was sitting around trying to figure out what to do, what my next move was going to be. And my friend was starting a business to train CNAs. So this is in 2008. Okay. So we all remember what happened in 2008. The economy crash, recession. And so we were thinking, how can we help people get jobs? And how can we help ourselves?
Yes.
So we thought about CNAs because we know nursing homes needed staff. I worked in a nursing home. I know they needed staff. And so we opened a school to train CNA students.
Wow.
And so out of our program, we had several students that came in. They became CNAs. We opened up a medication aid program afterwards. Some came back for that. Some of them have gone on and become physician assistants. Some have become nurses. Some have gone to medical school, become physicians. One is a nursing home administrator. And in fact, he just got promoted to vice president of the system that he's with.
Wow.
He was in our very first class. So I say that to say you can get started anywhere in healthcare. If you start at the bottom at CNA like I did, you don't know where you can end up.
Wow. Right? That is a great story because people do like, okay, how are you going to end up there? Where do you start? What do you do? And I mean, especially a lot of students and that are going through college or whatever. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do it. But your journey just kind of went this, all over the place.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't have to be a straight line. Like there are some people that are just like, yep, I was going to go to medical school and I got to medical school and I did what I did. No, I took a circuitous route. I went back and got another bachelor's degree. So now it's kind of funny. I have 2 bachelor's degrees. I had 3 minors. I have a minor in Bible and a minor in French. And then my second bachelor's degree, I got a minor in psychology and I became a psychiatric nurse.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I love it. And then I went back to school and got a master's in education and now a postmaster's as a gerontological nurse practitioner, back working with older adults again. And now I have the privilege of doing geropsychiatry. So it all has come back, around. And that's been so helpful to me, is to be open to new things. I mean, I didn't think I would do geriatrics. I didn't know I was going to do psychiatry, actually. I was thinking about, at one time, I thought about neuro. It's what I was going to do. And then I thought, I'd rather do, I thought about urology. I mean, I looked at all the different areas. And that's what's great about nursing. You can move around and try different specialties. But where I found that I landed was more in psychiatry, geriatrics, and community health. And that's kind of where my niche has been. Wow. I like that educational process of helping teach patients about their disease process and how they can manage their life. I did some of that in community health for some organizations. And then I got hit with the entrepreneurial bug. And the more I began to understand business and marketing, and how to build from the ground up, the more excited I got. And that's how I founded the Nurse Shark Academy, because I realized I didn't necessarily want to do all the businesses, right? There's infusion clinics, there's home cares, there's training schools, there's all these different things that you could have done and I could have done. Even a lice removal business, I actually at the franchise. Yeah. That was it was a great franchise. I would have been the 3rd in the state. I probably would have made a killing, but I realized I don't like head lice.
Oh gosh, yeah, you gotta like it, huh? You just gotta fall in love with it.
I can't do that. Every time they would have that, and when I was a staff nurse, I tried to get out of it. I did not want to be the one to do that. It's just one of those things. And so I was never good with that. And I thought if I did that business, I would be miserable. So I really looked at what I like to do. What I like to do is to start and build things. And so I thought, that might not be the right business for me, but maybe for someone else, that's the right business. And I can help them get there.
Yeah.
And I realized
that's wonderful.
I love the systems and the process, all the stuff that people don't like to do. That gets me excited.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love, as I'm hearing your story, the neat thing is that when people want to make a pivot in their careers, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. How do people make a change, or their, what resources and all of that? But you really explored so many different areas to figure out what you didn't want to do. And then you figured out what you did want to do, to be able to take the medical exams and all of that coming, through there. And then you really figured out what you loved to do. And life just takes us in different areas. And the audience for this is mostly those at mid-career, half-time of life, which officially starts like the age of 40. So, it comes really soon, really fast. And a lot of women and men are having kids a little later. We have 2 sons, the same sort of situation with their wives. And and so you kind of put off some of those decision a little bit, but it's still very, very relevant. And many that are approaching that stage of life have already been pretty established in a career, but now they're doing those sort of pivots. So one of the questions I wanted to ask, especially in this field, because it's a huge field right now, and especially when you mentioned geriatrics and the older, I tell you, I'm starting, because I am, after halftime, starting to get stuff in the mail. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not that old yet. Why are they sending me these things? And, I don't need, I don't need that at this point. I'm fairly healthy and the whole thing, but it's a huge audience of our country, huge. And so the needs are great. The needs are great for home care. Needs are great for, and growing.
Yes.
For all of that,
Yes.
it is growing. And so training some of these that have been in a field and wanting to pivot and wanting to do something else, and maybe really creating more significance, being doing something in their life that they feel like they can really contribute. And it might be in this field. I am not meant for this field. I have to look away when someone takes blood. I just I'm not good with it. So it's just, but there are a lot of people who are. They're just wonderful, and they have the heart for it. They have the empathy for it. So what are some of those resources that you can give us there that help people make some of those changes? Or what do people look for in those resources? And how do they go about maybe some of those pivots or exploring it like you have explored?
Well, one of the things I suggest is that you look at what you really like to do. Mm-hmm. If you could spend any time doing anything, what would it be? Mm-hmm. Because I realized for me, it was that process of helping people get what they wanted, get what they needed. Right. And it was exciting for me to see them grow and, do big things. I feel like I had a small piece of that. And that's what I learned with the CNA training school. When I saw those students who walked across my stage, now they're doing these great things with their careers. I feel like I have a little small piece of that. Mm-hmm. And so start with what is that you want to do and think about the things that you don't want to do anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And it's okay to make a change. Who says that if you started out being a firefighter, you have to be a firefighter till you die, right? Mm-hmm. You can do something else. I look at if you think about some of our politicians, they started out as lawyers or doctors, and now they've gone into politics. So they've pivoted to something else. Mm-hmm. So I always look at the last half of our life as like, another adventure, another journey. Mm-hmm. And I would explore it. I've talked to some nurses that because they physically weren't able to do the job at the bedside anymore, if it, illness or what have you, age. And so they've taken all their experiences and now they're putting into the entrepreneurship space, whether they're coaching others, helping people through wellness programs, or writing a book. I know a nurse and she's in her 80s and she just wrote a book.
Wow, I love that.
Students.
I love that. So
very exciting. So you don't have to put a number on it, an age on it. Yeah. It's okay to have a second career or a new renaissance, right? Yeah. Even though Beyonce's doing it the best, we can still have our own renaissance, right? and so, just be open to looking at things. But if you're looking to start a business, there's great free resources out there like SCORE. They have a lot of professionals that were in the business sector to kind of help answer those questions about your business structure and things like that. There are a number of coaching programs out there. So you want to find the coach that works for you. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but and so I appreciate that. I've worked with some coaches that, maybe we weren't the best, but and then I've learned that sometimes it's just me getting in my head and getting in the way. And I'm like, you're paying this woman, do what she says to do. And so that my level of resistance has gone down. I started implementing things for my own coach. But ask questions, listen to podcasts. This is another great way. Find a podcast on a topic that you're interested in, and then look around you to see if there's a problem that you can solve in the marketplace. Right. So there's a lot of great nonprofits and causes and movements that start because someone saw a problem and they had a solution for the problem. So look at that where you can do those things and, just grow, take flight.
Tina, that's such wise advice. And we don't need to be in a hurry. No. And many people at this point of life, there's a lot of freedom there. There's you don't have to panic. You don't have to hurry. You have, a lot more freedom. You've got the resources, you've got the experience, and it really does cross over. Because it's exactly what drives me in my business. I'm not in nursing, but what I found that I love to help people maximize resources, experience, and and their skills. They were sitting on their skills. People sit on them. They're just sitting. And it's like, do you realize what you have? And so it's exciting to me. It's fun. It makes it really, really fun. And that's why I work so hard. And and part of what the message is that I'm hearing too, Tina, is that you have been willing to work hard, really hard. And that's very admirable. A lot of people are not they just want to go, oh, okay, I just want to take it easy. Well, health goes down. A lot of stuff happens at that point if you're just going to take it easy. Have a purpose, have something that's driving you. So that's really, really important. And here, as you've made these pivots in your life, what's one of the biggest lessons that you learned that you could share just kind of briefly here, that maybe people go, oh, I identify with it?
For me, it was learning to extend grace to myself.
Ooh.
I was very hard on myself because I thought you're supposed to be so far along in your career. You're supposed to have all this stuff together. And no, maybe not so. It's the journey that's important, not necessarily always the destination. I had a 24-year-old come into my office who was very depressed. And because he said to me, I thought I'd have it all together by now. All my friends are getting married and they have these great careers and I'm stuck in this entry-level job. And I wanted to say, I said to him, you're only 24.
Yeah, I know.
A great explore, find out what you want to do. You've got all the time in the world and you don't have a family that's depending on you. So you have a little bit more flexibility. Use this time to your advantage. And he was like, I never thought of it this way, because in his mind, he wasn't where he should be. And I think sometimes we think that we hit 40, we hit 50, and we're like, man, I thought I'd be further along by now. Yeah. But it's the journey. Yes. It's learning what needs to happen inside of you. Right. And so I've learned to extend a little grace to myself. Okay, so today, maybe I didn't have it all together. Okay, we'll get it together tomorrow. We'll try again tomorrow. It's okay. Or maybe that business venture that I thought about, that I thought was going to take off, didn't, and it flopped. And then there's a couple of them that I got involved with, in a couple of startups, and I was just on there as a contributor, and they went under. They flopped. But you know what I learned from that experience? And so now I look at, even though there may be failures or temporary setbacks, I remember they're only temporary. Yes. And they are really great foundational for learning. And so I like that saying, to fail fast. Right. To get out there and do it, and give yourself a little bit of grace.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Love that. And, when we get to a certain point of life, we realize that hindsight's 20/20. I mean, we see all of this in our past and go, what was I thinking? And, but as you go through all of those areas, all of those times of life, you grow and learn. You learn really a lot more through the things that did not work. I've done the same thing. I put out projects before I even had a marketing plan. You just get, nobody really taught me business because I was in the gig economy, and I didn't learn that until a little bit later. So, but it's very much, you learn a lot, and you look back and you go, then there's joy in it, as you can see that. You can't beat yourself up. Give yourself grace. I love that. So would that be kind of one of your biggest struggles, is being so hard on yourself? Or what was in business? Because this business, you're in the healthcare business, that has to be changing all the time right now. And there are so many needs. So what's one of your biggest struggles that you've had in business, and maybe setting up a whole academy, which I think is very admirable? You've got an education background, which it really makes sense. And it sounds like you're very capable. So what's one of your biggest struggles that you've struggled with?
Well, one of the things I struggled with early on, and this is what a lot of nurses struggle with, because we're in the helping profession, right? So we're used to putting our needs last. And so it's that art of self-promotion. right? Because, you have a great product, you have a great course or whatever you're offering, but then you don't really want to tell anybody about it because, I don't want to put myself out there. And so I struggle with that early on. And so what helped me with that is I started guesting on podcasts. And then I realized it's part of my job to help promote that podcast or that article that I contribute to. So I have to put it out there, right? Because it's part of my job. And when I got the epiphany that if you have a great service and you have a great product and you can help a lot of people, but you don't tell them, you're actually being very selfish.
Right.
You're not putting that offer of help out there. So I don't think of it as selling to anyone. I put out an offer of help. How can I help you is what I say, so, whether or not you want to work with me one-on-one or you want to join the group coaching, or maybe you just, it's a one and done for you. My whole goal is to find how I can help you and answer the questions and answer your problem and help you solve your problem. That's my whole goal. And if I just do that, then I've done great work.
You've succeeded. Those are wonderful, wonderful things. So now if somebody is going into this field, because we did already talk about what the needs are, okay? And then you're thinking, someone's listening and they're going, oh man, I think I'd like to do that. I think, I've had a relative, go through this time of life, and I think I'd like to start helping other people. So they're thinking of, starting their business or, maybe linking on with a business, but they've got that little entrepreneur edge. So are they thinking of starting that business in the healthcare industry? So what are the initial steps? Because there's some hurdles to get over in the healthcare industry, and it's probably state by state, different things. So what are some of those initial steps that someone could be anywhere in the United States is in going into that field?
Well, if you're thinking, let's say if you are a nurse or maybe in the healthcare field already, look at what your credentials allow you to do, right?
Okay.
So for instance, there was a nurse that I talked to, and she was an infusion nurse. And she didn't like how the staffing was run at the company she worked with. So she developed her own infusion company, got the contracts to do the services, hired the nurses, expanded her business to the part of her state. And so she took over a region, built that business up. But then she decided that she wanted to do something else. So she since sold that business and moved into something else. I say that to say, start with what you have. Right? If you already have a skill in something, build from there. If you need to get the extra training or the extra credentials, find out how to do that. There was a massage therapist I was working with, and she wanted to start a massage therapy school. So I said, okay, well, let's look and see what you need to do for this. And so one of the things we needed to do was have her take some additional training online. I said, well, great. Your organization, your professional organization already offers free training for you. Go take that. Let's start there. Let's get that out of the way. So look for those opportunities. If when I started my consulting business, one of the first things I did, I'm also a legal nurse consultant. So I work with attorneys. And one of the first things I did is I invested in a course to help me understand what a legal nurse consultant does. I have to say, I'm very glad that I took this particular course. It was a certificate course. It was through the university. It was online because I needed to get it done quickly because I had my first case, right?
Wow.
And so I had okay, I have to figure out what to do now. And so I took the course. It was run by an attorney. And I have to say, hands down, it's one of the best courses out there because it was very practical. It gave me exactly what I needed as a foundation to get started. Now, going forward, I invested in other education to help me to hone my practice, get better at what I'm doing, understand different niches and nuances and things like that so that I can expand what I do. So start with where you are. And if it's taking, if you want to be a CNA, and okay, maybe you can get your first aid course taken, or maybe you can get your CPR class on your spare time while you're working. And I always tell people, there's a business coach that I've worked with, and she always says, that your job is your best business loan.
Wow. Wow. I love that.
So if you can bootstrap it and take, your time to get your business running before you leave the security and comfort of your 9 to 5, do that. I encourage you to do that. You can build a business part-time. Yeah. And very happy to show you how to do that, because I'm doing that myself, because I'm still not ready to leave clinical practice. I still love my patients. So I'm not ready to leave clinical practice. So I do both, and you can too. And there's something to be said for bootstrapping your company so that you don't have to worry about paying back loans or anything like that. Now, when you get bigger, if you need to take out a loan, you can. And if you need a loan to get started, I help you with that process too, with your business plan to get that done. But just start with where you are, and build from there.
Yes. And this is that whole point of maximizing skills. With people that they don't look and see. I was just consulting with someone at a conference, and she was talking about her life and everything. And I said, do you realize what you have? Do you realize you want to have this big change? And I said, you don't even understand. You can build on exactly what you have now. And do you love doing what you're doing? Oh, I love doing what I'm doing. I'm just thinking I need a change. I need a change of surroundings, all of this. I said, well, look to see what you have. Don't just quit everything. People quit thinking, oh, I just need to make this change. And emotionally, they just quit. Look to see, yes, what you have. And you have more skills than you think. Really. Tell this to young moms. Oh, my goodness. The skills that you have, the things that you have to handle as a mom, even though you don't have it all together, you never feel like you have it all together. We had 3 sons, 4 and under. I never felt like I had it all together. Are you kidding? I was working. I was doing all of this. And I told one of my sons, actually today, I told him, I said, he just had his first child. He said, oh, it's hard to work. He's an attorney. It's really hard to work, during the day if I'm there. And I said, that's why I worked at night. I stayed up. I got up early. Those habits have stayed with me this entire time, because I can work my schedule all the way around it. It doesn't have to be a certain time period. You learn to adjust, but build on what you have. And I like the fact that you brought up also that you were taking courses. Yes. Very, very smart. There's so much available online. And I know you have a whole academy for this, but there's so much online that people can get, and training. I have online courses that I make available in different areas, but there's a lot of courses. There are a lot. Look at them. Make sure that it's a trusted resource. That's the main thing. It's that someone has a track record, and it may not have all of that bells and whistles, but someone has a track record, and you know that you will learn from them. You will learn from the content. You will learn from almost like the mentorship of being in that course. So great advice. Thank you for that, for some of those things that you shared. I think it was extremely valuable. And how do you, in your business, how do you help people like dream bigger? I mean, besides just saying, oh, you know what you can do? How do you, and expand really their view of what they can do, especially in healthcare, because it's a need. It's growing. It is escalating. In fact, there's a lot of fear, because there's a lot of us getting older and older, and you're wondering, okay, are there going to be anybody that wants to take care of, the older population? So yeah, that's kind of a fear of people that are, gradually going older. So, not that I'm totally in that camp, but of course, no, I do admit it's why I speak to people at this stage of life. I totally get it. But so how do you help people kind of expand their, widen their borders, as I say, or dream bigger?
I have a conversation. I ask them questions about what are they doing, and not necessarily just about what they're doing in their business or their career. I ask questions like, so what do you do in your spare time? What kind of books do you like to read?
Ah.
Oh, okay. What movies do you like? Do you have any hobbies? Are you a crafter? I look for those creative things and I can get them talking. Most people are good about talking about themselves. So I let them talk and give me an idea about what it is that they love. And then I ask about their childhood. What did you love to do when you were a kid? Right? Were you the kid that loved to make costumes? Okay, so maybe there's something there. Or were you the kid that loved to bake? I had my great nephew. He loves to cook and he loves to bake. That's his thing. And I said, so what is it that captured your interest when you were little? And is this something that you're still doing? So I've been an avid reader all my life. I was the kid that read the cereal box at breakfast, the toilet paper wrapper. I read everything.
Yeah.
Okay, at all times. And so when I discovered that my natural tendencies are to kind of do research and look for things. And so I started to lean into that, which is why I'm good at working with the medical records and helping attorneys, because I want to get the backstory. I want to know what happened. And so I'm okay with digging through the weeds. Find those things that you like to do. So I get them talking about and then I ask them, well, what did you like about your job? What made you want this job? What's your favorite thing about your job? And then once we get to talking about things like that, I said, well, have you considered? And then we'll let the conversation go on. And a lot of times they're like, oh, I never thought of that. Oh, that's I'm going to write that down. And, and I said, yeah, I mean, those are just ways that, you can bring things out of people naturally. There are some people that are natural storytellers. Yes. And they would start telling me stories about their childhood or their life. I said, this would be wonderful. I think you should write a book. Yes. And they're like, what, me? I said, I'd read it. And so, have them get excited about what they love. And maybe it has nothing to do with their job at the time. So most people don't know that I was a radio DJ.
Oh, that's fun.
I was a radio DJ in high school and college. I took broadcasting because I ran out of school classes to take that would fit my schedule in school. I actually could have graduated a semester early, but I liked school and I had some things going on. I was in student government and things like that. So I didn't want to leave and I had to find something to fill my time. So I took broadcasting. My mother didn't want me to, but I talked her into it. She was in radio and broadcasting, which is why she worked publicly. She's like, no. I said, yes. So I was a radio DJ and I got used to being behind a microphone and talking and all that kind of stuff. And it became very natural to me. So during the pandemic, many, many years later, I started doing Facebook Live shows just to tell people where to get their PPE and what's happening with COVID and all that kind of stuff. I would do that. And it became a weekly thing. And now it's a weekly news show, which is why I said I was talking a lot today. I just got off the news show to hop over here. And so I'm doing this weekly news show. And then I started the podcast, the Nurse Shark Academy show. And, a couple years ago where I interviewed nurses. And I talked to my mom and said, you know what? I don't think I would have been comfortable and able to do this if I hadn't already had the training from high school and how to be comfortable behind a microphone.
Right.
Obviously, my FCC license is long gone. And I trained back in the dinosaur days where we had the reel-to-reels.
Oh, yes. I remember those. I do.
But we got up to CDs by the time I got to college. I thought that was the best thing ever. We got CDs. You don't have to do cassette tapes anymore. But I grew up watching shows like WKRP and all this kind of stuff. I love those. And it made me realize that broadcasting is something that I like to do, but it was a fun thing, It was nothing I considered to be, business related until years later. And it all came back for me when I started doing podcasting and things like that. So I thought that was great.
What a great story. I love the broadcast and that you're good with media. That's very, very important. And you got to just dig in. You got to just start. It's, now what do you offer here? And you've got this Nurse Shark Academy. Tell us just in a couple sentences, what that's about. Is it online courses? Is it where you work with people separately? And what are some of the things that you are able to offer? Maybe a couple things to the listeners.
Okay. Well, one of the things I do with the NurseShark Academy is I do have online courses. So if you wanted to go in and watch some of the videos and interact that way, and you always have opportunity to send me an email, ask questions and things like that. So I do have that. And then I have a mastermind courses where we are more interactive. So it's a group coaching where you get in and we talk about how to start your business, build up from idea to launch is what I like to say we do. And then for my more ambitious folks, they decide to work with me one-on-one.
Okay.
And that's where we sit down, and we can do that via Zoom or some other online platform if you're not local. And we really work to map out your business and all the steps you need. So from why you want to be in business to your business plan, because my philosophy is if you can write a nursing care plan, you can write a business plan. It's okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's a plan for your business, not a dry, stuffy business plan. And then we talk about your branding, your marketing, and how to create your unique voice or your unique selling point for your business and things like that. So those are some of the things we cover. And I have some great items there. I have my Guide for Nurse Entrepreneurship book is on the website.
Wonderful.
I just published a gratitude journal using our 10 Beatitudes of leadership.
Ooh, okay.
So you have a chance to practice some gratitude there and use your Beatitudes. So I just like to give back and share, because so much has been given to me. And I like to see other people soar. I just love it when I see nurses get excited talking about what they're doing.
Oh, that's so great. Well, all of the show notes will be they'll be included with this podcast, but I want you to just tell us your website. So people, if they're just listening, they can hear it. But really check out the show notes, because all of your links will be in the show notes. So can you tell us, just for the listeners, your website, which is?
Yes, it's the NurseShark Academy, the NurseSharkAcademy.biz. And if you go there for your listeners and they put in the promo code complimentary, they can get a copy of the gratitude journal for free.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to put that in the show notes too. The code. Okay, perfect. Well, for all our listeners, thank you for holding on to us with all the way through. This was fascinating. I think it's very, very relevant. I appreciate, Tina, your time today. And I love the diverse interviews that I get on this. And I haven't had time actually to interview. People approach me. I say my calendar's full. So, but I've really, really enjoyed the interview process. So thank you for joining me. And I hope people check this out. It's a very important and needed field here, is the nursing and the healthcare, the whole healthcare industry. So thanks again, Tina, for being with us today. And for all of you listeners, thanks for being with us and sticking with us. And I'll look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.